Hello, my name is Davis Bailey. I'm the founder of Noble Beef. This is a company I'm looking to start to connect customers with rural producers. My family has a small farm called Noble Farm, which is where this name comes from. And we raise Angus cattle, but we have also had great success in selling some quarters of beef to people that we know in the community. It's a really easy way for us to get rid of extra meat, and it's a great way for us to make some money while providing these people that we know a high quality beef. A high quality beef value for them to buy a whole quarter at a time, put it in their deep freeze, and the price that they're paying is less than they'd be paying for ground beef, and that this is all sorts of cuts of beef, even the high quality steaks and roasts that usually charge for significant premium. Now the goals I've laid out here are ones that are focused on really feasibility. I want to be able to address this business plan as if I could wake up tomorrow, call a producer to start raising beef for me, just from local connections, and then go out through the Lincoln community and sell to 30 different people with a letter of intent, and really, again, just be able to get this going on a small scale like that. Obviously, the goal would be to scale it later on, but the goals you'll see through this business canvas and my SWOT analysis are focused on just this small goal of getting started. Looking at my business canvas, we're going to start with the value propositions. Obviously, to be able to provide a customer in an urban setting like Lincoln with a connection to a locally produced quarter of beef, probably around the Kearney area, or I've got some connections in North Bend. We'll get to the key partners in a moment, but again, providing high quality beef to urban customers is the goal here. That's the main value proposition. For the producer, the goal is to provide them a way to market their beef in a way that protects them from the volatility of the markets. And then with cutting out so many middlemen, we're able to provide this beef fresher and quicker to customers in a really seamless process. The key partners, like I said, Tate Emanuel is a friend of mine in North Bend. Ben Halverson lives in Iowa. Both of them know how to feed cattle, and they do that on their farm and feedlot. Matt Hadwiger and Brian Bosshammer are some other people that I know from Buffalo County, where I grew up, who I could easily call tomorrow and ask them to do this, and in a way that would be done from out of friendship, but also out of business. This is a way that could benefit them too, and so I think they'd be on board with that. My wife Lori Bailey is going to be in charge of customer experience, and she's going to do a lot of the design and branding as well as the social media. And her brother Aaron Matsky, who worked for ConAgra in the biosystems engineering department. He's worked with packaging, he's studied it throughout college, and he'd be able to provide us some great insight there. Key activities, obviously working with the producers, as I mentioned, working with a butcher to produce or to process this beef for us and then put it in the packaging that we create for it, and then selling directly to people and then delivering this beef to them. Some of the marketing will be done online, and handling social media and advertising through our website will be another key activity. Key resources to help us get going with this. Del Fickey and Hunter Current are both connections of mine who sell grass-fed beef, and they'd provide a lot of great insight for me. The UNL Meats Department, obviously resources that we have right at our fingertips. They understand the meat processing side of things and could give us some valuable feedback there. Pleasanton Meat Locker is where I plan to start this process. We've worked with them in the past, and we've got that relationship already, and this would just be asking them to use our packaging for what they're doing day in and day out. The customer relationships, we really want to go about building those, being involved in the community, things like the farmers market, and other events in the Lincoln area where we can be out in the open, providing people face to the name of Noble Beef, and really just be building those relationships face to face. We'd also like to get into some different restaurants, have them advertise for us basically by providing them beef, maybe just for a day even, and have them tell their customers about us. And then, as I mentioned, a strong social media presence and a great website. Lori Bailey will be able to handle both of those things, and she's been able to do social media for a couple different businesses that pay her to do that remotely. The channels that are really important to note: the transportation of the cattle from the farm to the meat locker, and then transporting the meat from the meat locker to the customer. At this point, Lori and I will be doing that, and that'll be another great way to be involved with the whole process and really be that liaison between the producer and the consumer. Customer segments, we're going to start in the Lincoln area. Again, this is focused on something that I can do starting tomorrow if I decided to, whenever I decide to take that green light. And so in the Lincoln area, we've got countless relationships already built, and it's really just going to them and telling them how this could be beneficial for them. The type of people that this would appeal to are both people who see it being trendy and popular to buy locally, wanting to help the local farmers make their livelihood. But then it's also a great way just to save money. You're able to get some high quality beef, and buying it in bulk like this, putting it in a deep freeze, we'd be able to provide all different kinds of cuts for less than the average price of ground beef. Cost structure. We're going to pay producers for their live weight cattle. Again, this would just be like being a cattle buyer and going to these places and saying that we'll buy a truckload. We'd be able to go to these people that we already know, buy 10 head, and then sell that to these people that we've talked about. Refrigerated and transportation costs are going to be one of the weaknesses that we'll talk about a little bit later. We'll need some startup funding to get that going, but we're confident that we can find that. There's going to be marketing and branding costs, as well as costs for promotion at first, just getting in front of different customers with free samples and stuff like that in the farmers market, and developing newsletters and postcards that we can mail out to people to get our name out there as well. Revenue streams obviously come from beef sales to the at-home customer, and then hopefully getting into the restaurant space as well. Looking at the market, we see the price of beef and how it's risen since the 80s. Right now, beef is about $3.90 when I buy it at Super Saver. And when we sold quarters of beef this last year, the box beef price from the USDA was $1.82. We charged 8 cents over that to sell the meat for $1.90 a pound. This is again through Noble Farm, and that provided a little extra premium for us for the way that we were raising the meat. But they were able to get all their different cuts, even the higher priced steaks that you would normally have to pay significantly more for at the grocery store. They were still able to get that for less than the ground beef that they would be buying from the grocery store. Looking at the key competitors, the grocery store is obviously being the biggest thing. This is the way most customers are used to buying their beef. They go to the grocery store once or twice a week, and while they're getting all their other items, they can get their beef there. Again, it'll be at a higher price, and so if we can convince people to bulk buy, put it in their deep freeze, they'll really come out ahead in the long run for buying beef this way. There's also many online sites who are trying to market boxes of beef where people can choose different cuts that they want, even some really small places that are offering quarters of beef, but the way these are run really lacks the marketing to get in front of the urban consumers that we're after in the Lincoln market. Del Gould Meats is another place outside of Lincoln that we want to recognize, but they're more in the restaurant space, and so where you think that we have a little bit different customer segment than they do. This again is just showing how there's considerable premiums charged for these different cuts of beef. But again, the beef that we sold last year from our steer, we charged $2.55 was the final total per pound when we added in the processing costs for the customer. And so $2.55 per pound for a quarter of beef comes out well below the average price for ground beef, and we were still able to make a profit on that. The SWOT analysis, we've gone through the strengths and the value propositions. We see those being synonymous. Weaknesses is that there really are those strong competitors, grocery stores being the main ones, but this being a value-driven product and a cost-effective way to buy beef, that would be one of our big strengths against those. Opportunities, we'd like to work with rural communities and incentivize people to come back to those places, raise beef for noble beef as this grows, and we need more people raising beef for us. We think this would be a cool way to help those rural communities thrive. An opportunity that's working for us just in the world right now is the farm-to-table movement and people caring so much about where their beef comes from, as well as all their produce, and so we think that would really help this take off. And then eventually in the future, we'd like to expand to some other cities. This would also mean working with the rural areas around those cities so that this could be still a local beef source for those cities. It would just bear the Noble Beef brand on top of that. Threats is that anybody can do this, just like any business, but we're getting started. We understand both the production side of it, and we really understand the urban consumer that we're after, and so we think that we can take on that threat better than anybody else. Producers could get higher price when markets are higher. Since we're focusing on finding a flat rate, we want to be able to, again, provide them that protection from the volatility of the markets, but volatility also acknowledges that eventually the prices do go higher, and that could be a chance for them to get a little bit more money. What we'll do is develop a contract between a customer and a producer so that they're both tied into that equilibrium price that we've set. Of course, there's always negative stereotypes about the beef production, and we really see this as an opportunity as well to educate people about agriculture and how they can really be confident in how their meat is being raised. As I mentioned, I've got lots of resources and people that I want to sell on this idea, so there will be a lot more revision to my canvas. So far, the things that I've added, talking with my dad, it was really great to realize that by pushing the processing costs on the consumer, it still is going to be a total price that comes in very reasonable and less than they can buy even ground beef for at the grocery store. So that takes it off of our hands and still provides a profit opportunity for us. Customer segments, similar to what we have, but trendy people who love to buy local, this is going to be appealing to them, but also the value-driven people who care mostly about price. This is really a double threat there. Finally, in revenue streams, as we look to expand to other cities like Omaha, rather than focusing on the customers in those places, we could maybe get into a restaurant first and have them really get the word of mouth going of where their beef came from, and thus get more people in the areas that go to those restaurants to buy into this. Again, my name is Davis Bailey. This is Noble Beef, and we are trying to help the urban consumer in the Lincoln area buy beef better.